Lloyd Castle here this afternoon from Biker Basics Academy, Breeding Better Bikers. And this afternoon we've got a special guest as well who's basically known to the biker show people. Thanks for joining us today in this month of pedestrian awareness.
Well, yes, it's Transport Month. October is Transport Month.
Transport Month.
Yes.
Iksan Dyson, good afternoon. How are you doing?
Good afternoon to yourself and everybody else listening to the show. Thank you for having me.
Thanks for joining us again. Alright, so today's discussion, Lloyd, you want to take over from here?
Yeah, sure. Look, at the end of the day, son, welcome. So we were worried we weren't going to have you here today. Okay, I'm very glad that you're here. Iksan, it is Transport Month. We've heard a lot of hype in the media about what Transport Month is supposed to be. Can you give us an idea? What's your understanding within the Cape Town Traffic Department of Transport Month, and how does it affect us?
Well, basically, it's the city that's going to be placing a huge emphasis on transport, whether it be private or public. Just ensuring that people are more coherent to whatever rules of the road need to be adhered to, and also pedestrian safety, which is also a very important aspect with regards to traffic in the Western Cape. So there'll be lots of campaigns running, lots of educational campaigns. Officers will be out in
I've got a question on the campaigns. What will the campaigns entail? What will actually happen in the campaigns? Will it just be traffic officers giving out flyers, giving talks? What is the campaign actually doing?
The broader base of the campaign is basically just educating people with regards to safety when utilizing our public roads. I think it's something that we need to place an emphasis on, because people might think that they know how to use our public roads, and then you get to be able to teach them something that they didn't really know, and who knows, it could mean something that will keep them safe in the future when it comes to using our public roads.
Sorry, do you guys have a specific focus? Is there anything specifically that you're going to be targeting, or is it sort of just a blanket, let's go out there and teach them new stuff? Or is there a specific, is there something specific that you're
Robert's actually got a good question. The reason being is because if you go into a rural area where there's no roads, you can't exactly talk to them about how to use a pedestrian crossing. So is everything focused geographically or in terms of age groups? Because I've got an SMS line, line 32158, and you can join as well in the conversation if you are listening at home. SMSs are charged at R1. I've got a message here that says that the traffic department must seriously consider campaigning at secondary schools as opposed to primary schools, because many kids on scooters are faltering dangerously through stationary cars at speeds of like 60 to 80 kilometers per hour. So I think that also helps with the focus as well.
Yeah, look, the campaign is basically a combination of focused as well as broad-based education. Of course, being limited with our resources, we can't get to everybody and educate every single person or at
No, fully understood, but are you guys currently at that level now where you are actually targeting schools? Or
we are definitely targeting schools. I need to just consult with the education section whether they're actually including the secondary school, which I'm sure they are doing. I just am speaking under correction. The campaign is also aimed at pedestrians that tend to habitually cross our freeways, which is also something that's very dangerous.
That is a serious issue. I'm
Yeah.
assuming it's issues like that that actually brought about the Pedestrian Awareness Month.
Definitely. Look, it's one has to remember that the speeds on our freeways are quite a bit higher than our speeds in the urban areas. So your motorists have a lot less time to react when pedestrians run across the freeways while they're driving. So you kind of need to do the educational programs where the problem actually exists. So our freeways are one of those areas that is being emphasized in terms of basically speaking to people while they are actually busy doing the actual crossing of the freeway, and then just so that you kind of get them at that point where they've exactly done what you don't want them to do, so that it actually makes more of an impact
Sorry, that's great. I'm glad to hear that you're going to tackle them when they're doing it. The question that I have is, I was looking at a release in which they said in 2012 a total of 373 pedestrians were killed on the city's roads. Okay, 373 pedestrians were killed on the city's roads, and that came from the Western Cape Government Health Department's Forensic Pathology Unit. So this is figures that have been basically verified by the people who actually see the actual bodies that come in. And it represents, according to this release, it represented 57% of the total road traffic fatalities in the city. So you're looking at almost 60% of all our fatalities within the city of Cape Town were pedestrians in 2012, right? But the mind boggles when you look at
the city of Cape Town.
That's just for the city of Cape Town. That's not the entire Western Cape. Then when you look at what Ihsan just said a moment ago, tackle them when they're actually committing the violation, so that
it's still fresh in the mind.
exactly they know exactly what they did. They know that there's going to be a consequence for it. The problem is we're doing that as far as the pedestrian goes, but what are we doing in terms of the guy in the car that's speeding? Because let's face it, it causes. It's, you know, both sides of the story contribute to the collision.
You're raising a good point there, because I mean, okay, it is pedestrian month. I mean, when do we actually tackle driver month? Do we have a driver month?
Let's be fair for a moment. He's tackling the traffic department and the authorities are tackling pedestrians on freeways where we know pedestrians should not be. The pedestrian doesn't have a driver's license or a pedestrian license, so he doesn't know in most cases that he's not allowed to be there, which means we need to have a program to educate the pedestrian and to restrict access to the freeway. The problem that I have is that we are prosecuting people left, right and centre for speeding, and this is a bugbear of mine, I'm sure you know about this. We're prosecuting people for speeding by the thousands, but we're never pulling them over and saying, listen, stop that behaviour now. You know, we'll send you a fine and we'll tag you, you know, 3 months down the line you'll know that you did something wrong. But for now you can continue to speed. So I'm just curious, there is a correlation between speeding and pedestrian fatalities. It's clear. The pedestrian should not be crossing the path of the oncoming car, and the oncoming car is unable to avoid that collision because he's generally going too fast for the circumstances.
And that's a valid point, because as you were saying in the beginning of that, saying that if you have a driver's license or a rider's license, you are informed about these things. And I mean, it's not like we can actually issue pedestrians with a pedestrian license. So where do you guys actually target them besides at the bridge when they're actually committing the crime or the offence? Sorry, not crime, because you can't exactly get locked up for crossing the highway.
You can.
Can you?
Yes, you can.
You can.
If you can get locked up for speeding, then you can get locked up for crossing. You must remember something. An arrest is not about a punishment. An arrest is securing your attendance in court. So you actually the authorities are actually more justified in arresting you for jaywalking than they are for speeding, because with speeding you can trace the person and ensure that they come to court.
Exactly.
A pedestrian doesn't have a number plate.
With a number plate on the back of their head or something, although some people should.
Well, yeah, sure, some people should, you're right.
I'm just saying. Now, you were talking about jaywalking, which is actually a very interesting point that you actually raised that now.
Yeah.
Jaywalking, it's a very broad term, because I mean, a lot of people have
Yes.
different perceptions of what jaywalking is. Ihsan, I want to ask you, what is jaywalking basically?
Look, it's basically crossing a road or an intersection where you're not supposed to be crossing, and doing so illegally. For example, when the pedestrian phase is red for pedestrian and the pedestrian still chooses to cross the road, that basically, because you're crossing the road when it's unsafe.
Yeah.
I mean, the traffic signal, if there are traffic signals, will give you an indication of when it is safe to cross the road.
Now that's the point that I'm trying to raise now, is because my perception of what you just described there now is just disobeying an order. That is simple. There's a traffic light, that or the green man or the red man, you disobey it, that's disobeying that order. The definition that I've received from jaywalking was in one of the old learners' books, where it actually shows people walking in a zigzag fashion across the road, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
That is my perception, and a lot of people who see in that book, that's their perception of what jaywalking is. So it's once again coming to a point of reading from the same book, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think the correct term was dawdling in the road, if I'm not mistaken.
Dawdling or something like that, yeah.
But yeah, look, the thing is, ultimately, when we have these pedestrian operations, it's specifically pedestrian operations, because we don't have the manpower to, on any given day, do pedestrian operations as well as motor vehicular operations. So we'll emphasize on one specific aspect of
Okay.
road safety, and if it's pedestrians for that day, then that is what we will emphasize
Fair
on.
enough.
We know and we will tackle the motor vehicles that are speeding at a later stage,
Mm.
but we don't have the resources or the manpower to do everything on one day.
Of course.
Because if we're going to be doing that, we're going to be, we're going to be limiting the service that we need to give the entire city anyway,
Mhm.
because we're going to need all our manpower.
And you guys
for-
are already strapped at the moment in terms of manpower.
Exactly. And so,
But if you happen to get all the traffic cops in a certain area just doing jaywalking education or pedestrian education, let me know, because I know a few people that might want to remove the number plates for that day, specifically for that day. I'm just kidding.
Look, if they're all in
kidding.
one place, you don't need to remove your number plate. There'll be nobody doing anything else. I mean, come on.
this is
you've
the
got to
problem.
remove
Exactly, this is the problem that we have.
Look, there is. It's clear that there's a manpower shortage, and the idea is not to criticize